Does this look familiar? A little dense, a little bland, maybe even a little gummy on the inside? Is this the rye bread you've been pulling from your oven instead of the legendary rustic loaf that you were dreaming of? Most homemade sourdough is missing one secret European step, and it's why it never tastes bakery level. So I want to tell you a story. My wife grew up in the Czech Republic, where fresh European rye bread wasn't artisanal, it was daily life. Deep flavor, dark crust, and real fermentation. Even there, over time, tradition gave way to efficiency. Profit margins, supply chain, it all became easier, but not as good. And for years, our family chased that elusive lost loaf. Through bakeries, farmers markets, and countless almost good enough loaves of bread. You've spent weeks, maybe months, babying your sourdough starter. You've watched hours of videos on shaping techniques. You're sure that you've perfected your starter. You've nailed the slap and fold. So why does your rye bread still turn out just okay? Most bakers blame their starter, or their kneading, or their oven. But I'm going to let you in on a little secret. The problem is a single step that most recipes don't even mention. It's not your starter, and it's not your technique. And today, I'm going to show you the one thing that will transform your bread from a doorstop into a masterpiece. This is where most people get rye bread completely wrong. They treat rye flour like it's just darker wheat flour. It's not. Rye is an entirely different beast. It's low in gluten, the protein that gives bread its structure and chew. But it's loaded with pentasense, starches that absorb massive amounts of water without building strength. Translation? More rye means more flavor, but it also means more risk. Sticky dough, dense crumb, gummy texture. And if hydration isn't dialed in correctly, those active enzymes in rye can turn your dough from promising into a soup. This is why so many homemade rye loaves fail before they even reach the oven. The secret is balance. Enough rye for deep, nostalgic European flavor, but enough bread flour to create the gluten network rye simply can't provide. And for us, that sweet spot became the foundation for everything. This is Bernie, our starter. And much like the movie Weekend at Bernie's, if he looks lifeless, something has gone horribly wrong. A healthy starter isn't mysterious. It's active, predictable biology. Feed it correctly and within hours, Bernie should double, sometimes triple, with wild yeast and bacteria generating the lift, acidity and flavor this bread depends on. The rubber band doesn't lie. If Bernie isn't rising, neither is your loaf. And then came COVID. Like so many others, we had a lot of extra time. We weren't just baking, we were obsessed. We studied old methods, tested fermentations, tried different variables, until we stopped chasing nostalgia and started to recreate it. Now this bread isn't just our family recipe, it's our family standard. And according to my wife, we finally got it right. Now this is where good bread becomes unforgettable. First comes the Autolyse, just flour and water, resting together while gluten begins building naturally. No kneading, no force, just time doing what brute strength can't. But the real secret, the Poolish, or Biga, this pre-ferment is where flavor is quietly engineered long before the final dough ever takes shape. As lactobacillus and wild yeast begin fending, they develop acidity, complexity, and structure that commercial yeast simply can't replicate. Store-bought yeast gives you speed. Pre-fermentation gives you character. In just a few hours, this living foundation creates deeper flavor, better lift, stronger fermentation, and that unmistakable rustic complexity found in truly great European bread. This isn't just waiting. This is where the bread starts becoming extraordinary. And the biggest breakthrough came from when we realized that the flavor doesn't come from baking. It starts long before the dough. Now we build the final dough. Flour meets pre-ferment, and this is where structure begins catching up to flavor. As the mixer works, gluten starts forming, transforming what began as a sticky mass into something elastic, smooth, and alive. You're watching strength develop in real time. By the end, the dough should tighten up enough to clean the bowl itself. Always one of the clearest signs that your foundation is exactly where it needs to be. Then it's into a clean bowl, covered, and into cold fermentation overnight. Because once again, time is doing all the heavy lifting. Slow fermentation deepens flavor, improves digestibility, and turns good dough into exceptional bread. After the cold ferment, the dough has done something remarkable. It's built flavor, structure, and complexity almost entirely through patience. But now, technique takes over. Straight from the refrigerator, the dough is cold, dense, and easier to control. But before final proofing, it needs time to wake back up. Letting the dough gradually return toward room temperature reactivates fermentation, relaxes the structure, and prepares it for shaping without tearing or fighting you. Rush this step and you risk forcing tension where elasticity should naturally develop. Once ready, shaping becomes one of the most critical phases in the entire process. This isn't just folding dough, it's engineering structure. Each fold strengthens the gluten network, redistributes the gas, and builds the internal architecture that will ultimately determine the oven spring, crumb, and final form. Surface tension is everything. By pulling and tightening the outer layer, you create a smooth, taut skin that helps the loaf hold its shape, while directing expansion upward instead of outward. Without enough tension, the dough spreads. Too much tension, and it tears. This is where touch, restraint, and experience all matter. Once shaped, the dough moves into the banneton, where support, airflow, and final proofing work together to preserve everything you've built. The basket isn't just tradition, it's structure insurance. Here, as the dough continues its final rise, flavor matures even further while shape stabilizes for baking. This chapter is where many loaves are lost, or mastered, because exceptional bread isn't just fermented well, it's shaped with purpose. Now comes the moment where everything you've built is finally put to the test. After shaping, tensioning, and proofing, this dough is no longer a mixture of flour and water, it's a living structure, loaded with fermentation, trapped gas, and potential energy. But getting it into the oven without destroying that surface matters. The bread sling makes that transfer clean, controlled, and safe, protecting both shape and surface tension as the loaf moves into extreme heat. Then comes scoring. Using a bread lame, we deliberately create weak points along the surface. This isn't decorative, it's strategic engineering. Without scoring, expanding gases will rupture unpredictably. With it, we control where the loaf opens and how it rises, and how dramatic that final structure becomes. And then, the Dutch oven does what traditional hearth ovens once did best. At 500 degrees, sealed under the lid for the first 25 minutes, moisture released from the dough becomes trapped steam. That steam keeps the crust flexible, just long enough for a maximum oven spring, allowing the loaf to expand upward before the crust sets. This is where volume is created. Now this is where the rustic bloom happens. This is where all your fermentation, shaping, and structure either pay off or fall short. Once the lid comes off, the environment changes completely. At 450 degrees for another 26 minutes, moisture escapes, sugars caramelize, and the Maillard reaction transforms the crust into something deeply browned, crisp, and full of layered complexity. This is where the flavor locks in. And when it finally emerges, crackling and aromatic, resistance becomes part of the process. Resting allows the crumb to finish setting internally, because slicing too early can undo hours of precision. And then, simple butter, a touch of salt, nothing complicated, because bread this good doesn't need distraction. Just deep rye flavor, developed fermentation, and the unmistakable character of traditional European baking. If you'd like to recreate this at home, I've linked the full recipe below. And if this helped you better understand the craft behind truly exceptional bread, subscribe, like, and leave a comment. And I have to know, what strange, legendary, or completely ridiculous names have you given your starter? Bernie can't possibly be the only one.